if you're listening to this, you will know the result of that already. Congo and Jamaica are currently in extra time, so you'll know that result as well. But the ones that we do know, Sweden is headed to the World Cup over Poland. Turkey is headed in over Kosovo. Czechia is in over Denmark. And Bosnia and Herzegovina are in over the Italian national team, which comes as a surprise to almost no one. It's not a surprise to me. I posted this morning that they would draw 1-1 and lose on penalties, but I took the afternoon off just in case I was wrong. Turns out I was right. So, Hayden, I think the big story here from a local perspective is Esmir Bajraktarevic. His penalty is actually the penalty that qualified Bosnia and Herzegovina for the World Cup. So that's a pretty special moment that I'm sure I'll appreciate much, much more in June when he comes back over to the U.S. to play in the World Cup.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously, I know, in the circumstances, had it been Greece who lost in those circumstances, I would feel the same as you right now. I assure you. But, um, yeah, I mean, it's really a tremendous story when you think about, he was, just a very talented prospect, of which, they've had several talented prospects come through their academy. There's not anything that, like, obviously, there's nothing that guarantees that Esmir would have grown up to be or to develop what he is, really still developing to become. He's still a very young player, but he is absolutely, at this moment, an unabashed success story for the Revs and their academy developmental system. And he was someone they recruited from Wisconsin. I mean, I know they call him the Milwaukee Messi, even though I'm told by Wisconsin people that that's nowhere near, I think, Appleton, where he's actually from. So,
Wow,
but
yeah,
whatever, it's a cool nickname.
yeah.
I'm not going to let that get in the way of it. So, but it's like he came into the team, and I remember, he was right away. You could tell he was just a very different and interesting player. I think would be the sort of vague terms but it's just like the way he, would get in between the lines in space, the way he would try to play passes and whatnot. It was like different than other young players. And you're like, okay, there's a little more of a brain there. There's a little more of a sense of soccer, again, to just use a sort of generality, but just like you just had, like, if we're using like sort of FIFA video game terms, like his awareness was higher, and so I just always felt like he's a smart guy and also a very technical player, and he's gone on to become a member of their regular team there at PSV, which is one of the great developmental teams, and really one of the great teams historically in Europe, in a sense, and obviously one of the best teams in that league, and puts you in a prime position to maybe move on if he can keep growing and developing as a player to an even bigger club. But obviously at the moment, I mean, I know people, he could have chosen to play for the US, but he wanted to play for his native land, because that's, because of I know sort of emotionally there was attachment there from his parents. And there's, I know, like, speaking of Blazing Musket, like, Seth Maycomer wrote a great thing about him, and they covered him extensively. And um, it's really, it is like, a fantastic story. And for him to now, I remember the story about him, like how he had the Edin Dzeko poster on his wall as a kid, and then
Mhm.
ended up, getting to play with him. And now, like, he's the official reason why they're going to a World Cup. I mean, that's like a magical thing. So all Italy, you know, ramifications and jokes aside, like, that is a beautiful moment for a guy who started his professional career here and is now coming back to the US to play in a World Cup. So, in, a lot of, like I said, some, not so great news around the World Cup. There are still, because it's soccer, like, there's still some just beautiful stories. And this is absolutely one of them, even at the expense of the Italians.
Yeah, I mean, he was, to be honest, I mean, he was outstanding through the entire game. Bosnia and Herzegovina had to play 120 minutes on Thursday night, and they had to go and do it all over again. Not too long after that, but yeah, I mean, Esmir was, I mean, he's just brilliant through the whole game. He's getting on the ball, getting himself space, got past DeMarco, several times, put in some excellent crosses, put some good balls into the box, nearly scored on a couple of occasions from those crosses. But I mean, he was definitely, I'd say he's probably the best player on the field, for either team. So I think he's done really, really well. And it'll be interesting to see, like you said, can he finish the season out strong with PSV? Can he have a good World Cup? And we know that, deservedly or not, if you have a good World Cup, you can play yourself into a bigger role at a bigger club pretty quickly. So it'll be interesting to see how his career continues to grow. But there's no reason to think it's going to do anything but that, right? Just he's not even. I don't think he's even 21 yet. and he just seems to be going from strength to strength. So no, great for him. Very exciting. It'd be great to see him come back over here and play some games in the U.S. over the summer.